Welcome, listener, in the shadows. We bring stories into the light. Join me as we explore the encounters no one speaks of and the things that watch from the dark. You were never supposed to see this, but since you have, you might as well wear it. From the vaults of the shadows, a new collection of unsettling apparel and artifacts pulled straight from the stories that were never meant to surface. Soft, worn-in shirts and hoodies that feel like something you dug out of a locked trunk in an abandoned ranger station. This isn't just merch, it's evidence. Chapter 7. The Ember Throne. I didn't sleep again. Couldn't, not after what I'd seen in the fire. Not after Anya's voice, calm and devoted, called it the mouth. Like it wasn't just a flame, but a thing with intent, with memory, with hunger. I paced the motel room until sunrise, hands shaking. My mind wouldn't stop replaying the visions, the cave, the branded woman, the boy who wasn't me but looked too much like me to ignore. They weren't dreams. They were memories, but not all of them were mine. I drove out past the ridge, gravel hissing under my tires. Ashford Reach faded behind me in the rearview mirror, its crooked roofs, its smoking chimneys, its perfect silence. I just needed air, distance. But 10 miles out I pulled over, my skin itched, the back of my throat tasted like soot. And when I stepped out it felt like the sun dimmed, even though the sky was clear. The fire was inside me now. I felt it breathing behind my ribs. I returned to Mara. Found her sitting on the hood of her truck again, same as before, eyes fixed on the tree line. She didn't look surprised to see me. "You look like you've seen the mouth," she said. I didn't sit. "What the hell is it?" She paused. "It's a god to some, a parasite to others. Depends on how much you've lost." "Why didn't you leave?" I asked. You know what this town is." She looked at me then, not with anger, but with the kind of tiredness that sets into your bones after decades of secrets. "My brother walked into the fire when we were kids. Didn't even flinch. Said it was like going home." She shrugged. "I stayed to make sure I remembered the version of him before that." I stared. "So you just let this continue?" Mara shook her head. "I watch, I wait, and I help the ones who still have a chance to leave before it calls them back." She stepped down from the hood, voice low now. "But you're not here to leave, are you?" I didn't answer. She studied me. "You think fighting it makes you pure, but the fire doesn't need your consent. It only needs your lineage." I returned to the clearing that night, alone. There were no cultists this time. No Anya, no ceremony, just the fire, waiting. It flared the moment I stepped into view, and something moved within it. A figure, half-formed, shifting between shapes. My face, then my father's. Then a child I didn't recognize, all made of ash and ember, skinless, eyeless, breathing my name. "Michael, come take your place." My knees buckled. I fought it. I screamed back. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose you." The fire didn't care. It rose higher, licking the sky. And then the voices began, dozens of them, hundreds, all saying the same thing. "He returns. He returns. He remembers. He returns." The stone basin cracked. The clearing shook. And rising out of the flame, towering, skeletal, burning from the inside out, was the Ember Throne. A throne made of blackened bone and melted gold. Carved into its legs were hundreds of names, mine among them, fresh and glowing. And at its base, a hollow mouth opened in the dirt, breathing, smiling. I turned to run, but Anya stood behind me. "You can't leave now," she said, voice calm. "It's already begun." Tears streamed down her face, but her hands didn't tremble. "This isn't faith, Michael, it's inheritance." I looked at my hands, my arms. They were glowing, cracks of red like heat pushing through skin. The fire wanted me, and worse, part of me wanted it back. Chapter 8. The blood of kindling, the glowing cracks in my arms pulsed, faintly at first, like distant embers. Then stronger. Heat rose in my veins like boiling oil. I stumbled backward, clutching my forearm, but it wasn't burning me. It wasn't even painful. It was warm, familiar, like the way a room smells when it remembers your body. Anya stepped forward. "It's accepting you." I shook my head. "No, this isn't acceptance. This is possession." "The fire doesn't possess," she said gently. "It preserves. You're not being taken. You're being recorded." "Recorded for what?" I snapped. "So some ancient thing can whisper my name in the dark." Her expression didn't change, but her eyes, they dimmed, as if something in her was growing tired of explaining. "It doesn't whisper your name, Michael." She looked past me, toward the throne, its silhouette rising behind the flames. "It wears it." The throne's legs shifted. I heard bone grind against stone. The ground trembled. From the pit at its base, something crawled forth, not walking, not slithering. Flowing like heat bleeding into shadow. It had arms but no fingers, a torso but no face. Not until it turned toward me. Then slowly it wore mine. Same jaw, same eyes, same scar on the bridge of the nose. But behind its eyes was nothing, just the shimmer of firelight moving behind a hollow screen. I fell to my knees. The forest around me twisted, trees bowing inward, chanting without voices. The blood returns. The fire remembers. The throne takes shape. "Tell me what this is," I whispered, and Anya answered. "Our family was chosen generations ago, not for purity, not for faith, for memory." She knelt beside me. Her face was serene, but something beneath her skin twitched, like coals shifting under damp logs. "They called the first one Father Cole. He burned before the records, before the churches. He gave his body freely, and the fire kept him." I stared at her. "Kept him," she nodded. "Not his flesh, not his soul, his role, the position of reminder. Every generation, one of us is called to reignite the shape, to take the throne." I looked at the creature, the thing that wore my face. Its body trembled, half-formed, like it was waiting for instruction. "You want me to become that?" "I don't want anything," Anya said. "The fire already chose." All I did was listen. I stood, barely. My legs shook like saplings in a storm. My chest felt like it held a second heartbeat, slower, hotter. "No," I muttered. "I won't do this." The air thickened. Anya didn't flinch. "You already are." She raised her hand and touched my chest, right over the sternum. And the moment her palm met my skin, the forest vanished. I stood on a scorched field. Hundreds of stone thrones in a spiral. Every one of them occupied by something that almost looked human. Some wept, some smiled, some screamed without sound. And at the center, a single torch burning blue. A voice filled the air, not Anya's, not mine, not human. "You will not die, Michael Harrow. You will become a page, a chapter, a hymn of heat." The voice came from inside me. I looked down. My hands were gone, my arms flame. I was becoming something else, not fire, not man, a reminder. The final name before the page turned. Then Mara's voice, distant, screaming. "Michael, wake UP, now!" A crack of gunfire. The clearing returned in a rush of ash and noise. Mara stood at the edge, rifle smoking. One of the robed cultists slumped over, blood steaming in the firelight. She ran toward me, shouting, "You don't have to let it in. You can still leave." But my body wouldn't move. Anya stepped between us. "You'll kill him," she said calmly. "No," Mara growled. "You already did." She raised the rifle again, and I saw the fire react. It twitched, it spoke, not in words, not in prophecy, but in instinct. Burn the past, keep the air. And then the fire reached for her. Chapter 9. What the flame keeps. Mara's scream split the clearing. The flame didn't move like fire. It reached, a twisting column of white heat lashing toward her like a whip. She dove behind one of the ash-stained stones at the edge of the circle. The earth where she'd stood boiled black. I tried to move. My body didn't listen. My skin glowed with those same vein-like cracks, red and pulsing. My hands weren't burning, but I could see through them. Smoke drifted from my wrists. My bones flickered. "Michael," Mara shouted from cover. "Fight it." I wanted to. I tried to. But the fire had a memory of me older than my own. And it was calling me home. Anya walked slowly toward the throne, her feet bare, robes drifting behind her like smoke. Her voice was soft, reverent. "Every air resists. Every air breaks. It's how the fire tests what it keeps." I turned to her, the heat surging through my chest. "Why me?" "Because you still believe in a past where this didn't belong to you." She reached up, pressed a hand to my heart. "But the truth is, it's always been inside you." Behind her, the thing wearing my face stirred. The unfinished version of me, flickering, skeletal, waiting for final breath. Anya turned to it, whispered, "He's ready." And it moved. It stepped forward slowly, one foot into the ash, then another. Each movement sent sparks up from the ground. The forest bent inward. Mara emerged from cover, rifle raised again, but I saw the way her hands shook. Her lips trembled, eyes wide. "Michael," she said, voice hoarse, "if you let it take you, this never ends. Your blood will feed this thing until the mountain's nothing but cinders." I looked at her, really looked. The only person who had come back for me. The only one who remembered me for who I was before the fire. My knees buckled. I fell forward. The ground didn't catch me. The fire did. It lifted me into the air, arms out, body glowing, flames dancing along my ribs. The voice returned. That impossible voice, not loud, not deep, just absolute. "You are remembered. You are written. You are kept." And then, a sound the fire had never heard before, my voice. "No." I reached inside myself, not physically, but deeper, past the smoke, the heat, the stolen memory, into the silence at my core, the place the fire had never truly touched, and I pulled. Every vision it had shown me, I let them burn. Every name, every ancestor, every altar. I lit them up and refused to carry them, not forgotten. Released, the fire screamed, a sound like mountains splitting open. The image of myself, the fire being, the air convulsed. It cracked down the middle. Smoke poured from its chest. And for the first time since I'd seen it, it looked afraid. Mara ran to me, grabbed my wrist, and yanked me back across the threshold. The clearing pulsed, the trees groaned, and behind us the fire collapsed in on itself. Not gone, but dormant, waiting. As we stumbled out of the woods, smoke trailing behind us, I looked down at my arms. The glowing cracks had faded. My skin was scorched, but solid, whole. Mara didn't speak until we reached her truck. Only then, staring at me in the rear view, did she say, "You broke the cycle." But I wasn't sure, because deep inside me, below the heartbeat, I still heard it. Not a voice, just breathing, the fire remembering me, waiting for dusk. Chapter 10, The Hollow That Remains. We didn't talk much on the drive back. Ashford Reach was quiet, as always, too quiet. A town without engines, without children. The roads lay bare, the windows shuttered. Not a soul walked its dirt streets, but someone had cleaned. The sidewalks were swept, the porches free of dust. Lanterns hung lit, even though no one walked beneath them. It was like the entire town had paused, waiting for instructions. Mara parked at the edge of Main Street and looked at me. "You sure you want to go back in there?" I nodded. "We need to know if it's over." She didn't reply, just unbuckled her seatbelt and pulled a revolver from the glove box. "Then let's knock on the door." We found the church first. The Order of the Ember Throne's chapel had burned, or tried to. Blackened timbers, scorched stone, glass melted inwards. But the fire had stopped before it finished, like it had been interrupted mid-breath. Inside, the altar still stood, but the pit, the black brick hearth where the mouth had lived, was empty, cold, and yet my skin itched, like the memory of heat still clung to the air. "Feel that?" I whispered. Mara nodded grimly. "It doesn't want us here." I walked closer to the hearth, footsteps crunching over ash. My reflection shimmered in the scorched brass offering plate, and for a second I saw not myself, but the other me, the one the fire wanted. Eyes hollow, chest split, mouth open in a word I still hadn't heard. I stepped back, no tricks, just residue, like someone else had almost been me. We moved through the town. The diner was empty, half-eaten meals congealed on plates. The ceiling fan spun lazily above untouched chairs. In the town hall, all the records had been burned. Just ash where files had once been. All names, all births, all deaths erased. Or maybe taken. It wasn't until we reached the Harrow family house, the one Anya and I had grown up in, that we heard sound. Music. Old. Warbled. A record player crackling a hymn through blown speakers. To burn is not to die, the breath shall bear the name. The door creaked open under Mara's hand. Inside, the smell hit us instantly. Wax, cedar smoke, and something deeper, like old iron and spoiled milk. Anya sat in the living room. She wore a red shawl. Her feet were bare, caked in soot. Her hands rested in her lap, folded like in prayer. She didn't look up. "You stopped the mouth," she said. I stepped forward cautiously. "You knew I would." "No," she said softly. "I hoped you wouldn't." She lifted her head. Tears had left tracks through the soot on her cheeks. But even without it, there are others who remember, others who still wait. The fire doesn't need wood, Michael. It just needs belief. I knelt in front of her. What happens now? She looked at me, eyes red but clear. You leave, you go. You forget the shape the fire made of you. And you, she smiled faintly. I stay. Someone has to keep the breath of it alive, even if the flame is gone. That night, Mara and I left Ashford Reach. We didn't speak again until we passed the old mile marker on Route 12, the one that had been burned down and rebuilt more times than anyone could count. Just before it vanished in the rear view, I looked back and saw a single light flicker on. In the church, no movement, no smoke, just the faintest glow, a reminder that some fires don't need wood, only a name. Chapter 11. What the ashes remember. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of sleeping in strange beds, breathing through the staleness of cheap motel air, and trying not to dream. But the dreams came anyway. Sometimes it was the throne, empty now, still smouldering, but not dead. Sometimes it was Anya, walking backwards into fire. And sometimes it was me, standing at the edge of a town I'd never seen, whispering a name I didn't remember learning. I kept a map, pinned with red thread and coffee stains, circles drawn in pencil, places with fires too big for their population, towns with no morgue records, no school registries past a certain decade. I followed rumors, folklore, notes scribbled on online forums by people who sounded too calm to be lying. One name came up 3 times. Stillwater Bend. Population under 400. No church. No official mayor. Just a township committee that hadn't changed faces in 27 years. The locals said they didn't celebrate holidays. No fireworks. No Christmas lights. But every dusk, without fail, a lantern was lit in every window. Not electric. Real flame. We arrived at Stillwater on a Monday just after dusk. And like clockwork, the lanterns were already burning. Every house, every porch, even the rusted-out gas station near the town limit had one in the window, glowing a strange, oily orange. Mara drove slowly. You think they're Covenant? She asked. I watched the windows as they passed. Shapes moved behind some. Others stood perfectly still, not staring, listening. No sigils, I said. No markings, but they believe in something. We parked near the center of town, beside a general store with no name on the sign, just a white flame painted in fading chalk. No one greeted us, but I felt the town exhale when we stepped onto the sidewalk, like it had noticed. The innkeeper was an old woman named Nadine. Her eyes were pale blue, nearly white, but she moved with the clarity of someone who'd seen every fire and refused to flinch. No one comes to Stillwater for leisure, she said as she handed us a single-room key. We're just passing through, I offered. She didn't smile. No one passes through. They either stay or they forget how they got here. I froze. Mara took the key. We'll be gone by morning. Nadine's lips twitched, not quite a grin. You'll try. That night I walked. Mara stayed behind, sharpening her knife on the bedpost like she was trying to stay awake through muscle memory. I followed the flicker of lanterns. Every window carried that same oily glow. No shadows moved behind the glass, just flame. I turned a corner and stopped. There, in the middle of a cul-de-sac, sat a boy, 6 or 7 years old, curled in the grass, watching a lantern he held in both hands. It was open flame, no cover, and yet he wasn't burned. He looked up at me and whispered, "You carry ash." I knelt slowly. "What's your name?" He shook his head. "They said not to give it. Names feed the breath." My spine tingled. "Who told you that?" He looked back at his house. "They did, before they stopped talking." "Your parents," he nodded. "They said if I kept the lantern burning, the quiet thing wouldn't come in." My stomach turned. "What quiet thing?" The boy pointed behind me. I turned, nothing, just empty street. But the fire in the lantern guttered and hissed. I returned to the motel. Mara was already packing. "They're not Covenant," she said. "Not yet." I blinked. "How do you know?" She held up a folded newspaper she found in the nightstand. The date was from 5 years ago. The headline read, "Stillwater family found burned in locked home. No signs of forced entry. Fire had no source." Beneath it, a photo, a doorway blackened, no scorch pattern, just consumed, and scratched into the doorframe. "Ash is the last voice." I sat down, suddenly cold. Mara watched me. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" I nodded. "They didn't resist the Covenant, they outlasted it, and now it's just waiting." Not just waiting, she said. Listening. And outside, every lantern flickered in unison once, like breath being held. Chapter 12. They whisper in smoke. We broke in just after 3 o'clock am. Mara picked the lock on the supply shed behind Stillwater's general store. Her hands didn't shake, but her mouth was tight. Jaw clenched the way it always was when she knew something bad was waiting, not might be waiting. Was. Inside. Dust, lantern oil, bundled rope, and a floor hatch padlocked with 3 rusted chains. Normal town stuff, Mara muttered. I leaned close to the floorboards, and I heard it. Not a sound exactly, more like air, moving with rhythm. Like breath, faint, hollow, coming from beneath the wood. Got your flashlight? I asked. She shook her head and handed me a lantern instead, one of Stillwater's own. I didn't want to touch it, but the moment my fingers closed around the handle, the flame brightened, like it recognized me. We cracked the chains and lifted the hatch. A stone staircase spiraled downward, walls carved into uneven brick. Not built by masons dug slowly over years, or maybe longer. I went first. The walls sweated heat, not fresh, not alive, just the memory of fire. Like the bricks themselves had once held flame in their pores and still exhaled it now. At the bottom, the tunnel opened into a long, low room. It had no altar, no sigils, but there were names. Thousands of them etched into the brick, layer by layer, in tight spirals that wrapped from floor to ceiling. Some were full names, others were just letters, but they all shared one thing: they had no dates, no beginning, no end, just names. Mara ran her fingers along a row, reading aloud. Sarah Beckett Mayer, Lyle Harrow. She stopped. She turned to me. You seeing this? I stepped closer. There it was, Michael Harrow, scratched into the wall, a layer older than the brick itself, etched into the clay like it had waited for the bricks to be placed around it. I touched it, and the walls exhaled. Smoke poured from the mortar seams, thin and silver, not choking, not hot, just present. Mara grabbed my arm. We need to go. The smoke thickened, and then it spoke, not through voices, through memories. Visions slammed into me like fists. My childhood bedroom full of warmth, the look on my mother's face the night she left Ashford, Anya's first steps, the last letter she sent me never opened, and then flames. Every place I had ever stood in grief, and a voice not mine narrating. Each spark is a kept pain, each ash a page, each breath a name too stubborn to be forgotten. I backed away. The smoke followed. Mara was pulling me toward the stairs when we saw it. At the far end of the chamber, behind a collapsed brick wall, lay a shallow pit. Not a throne this time, not a hearth. A bed, a cradle made of burnt wood, empty but rocking, back and forth, as if something had just left. Mara hissed, "Michael, look up." I did. Above the cradle, carved into the stone with black resin, were 4 words. The next breath, lives. We didn't run. We climbed, fast. The smoke didn't chase us. It didn't need to. It had already spoken. Back on the surface, the sky was beginning to pale, not quite morning. But the moment the sun touched the treetops, every lantern in Stillwater snuffed out. At once. No smoke, no sparks, just silence. Mara and I stood in the middle of the street, eyes wide, and from every house, porch and shop, windows opened, and faces looked out. Blank, still, listening. Mara whispered, "They know we were down there." I whispered back, "They were waiting for us to go." And then, from the far end of the street, a child's voice rang out, "The next breath is ready." And every window closed. Chapter 13. The one who carries smoke, we didn't sleep. Stillwater was no longer a town, it was a stage. And every face we passed, every open window, every silently rocking chair felt like it was watching the next act begin. The sun rose pale and cold, but the heat didn't leave. It lived now, somewhere out of sight, somewhere close. And we knew, without needing to say it, that whatever had been waiting in the cradle below the earther was awake now. We found the boy again near the creek. Same child as before, 6, maybe 7, lantern gone, knees muddy. His clothes were too thin for the mountain air, but he didn't shiver. He just sat, turning a rock over and over in his palm. Mara approached slow, crouching nearby. "Hey, you remember us?" The boy didn't look up, but he said, "You opened the room." I knelt beside him. "Was that your room?" He shook his head. "Not mine." He pressed the rock into the dirt and drew a circle around it with his thumb. Then another, layer after layer, like a ripple in still water. It used to burn, he said quietly, but now it waits. It's tired. I swallowed. What is? He looked up, eyes milky, reflective, like he was looking through me. The breath. It needs a mouth. We brought him back to the motel. He came willingly, said his name was Jonah, but only after we promised not to say it out loud. Names are too loud, he explained. They wake things. We didn't press. Mara drew salt lines across the motel door. I checked the power lines. Stillwater's grid had never been reliable, and I didn't trust any town that lit itself by lantern after dark. Jonah sat on the bed, swinging his legs. He asked us strange questions, not about cartoons or snacks or bedtime stories, but about firewood. How many logs do you need before it starts talking? And do you think smoke can remember people even after they're gone? We didn't have answers, but the questions stuck to us like soot. That night, Mara left to make contact with an old archivist she knew in Dry Hollow, someone who tracked remnants of the Covenant. She was gone less than 2 hours. She came back pale, jaw set like stone. They had a fire last week, she said. A farmhouse burned itself down from the inside. No accelerant, no source. And, I asked. She swallowed. They found a name carved into the bricks. I waited. She met my eyes. Michael Harrow. The world tilted. Jonah looked up from the motel carpet, where he'd drawn another circle of circles with his finger. I didn't write it, he said. It did. Whose it? I asked. He touched his chest. Then mine, then the space between us. The part of you that didn't leave, the part that got kept. Mara paced the room. Listen, this kid, Jonah, or whatever he is, he's not the fire. He's just the vessel. Something inside him is trying to reach you. Why me? She stopped, turned. Because you broke the throne, Michael. You broke the cycle. You took away the place the fire was supposed to live. She gestured to Jonah. So now it wants a new shape. Jonah began to hum then, low, tuneless, and with each breath the air in the room grew thicker, not smoky, just full, like memory had mass. The lights flickered, and on the motel mirror, without touch, a message wrote itself in slow, curling soot. Let him carry it, or we burn again. Chapter 14. Ash does not sleep. The writing on the mirror didn't fade. Let him carry it, or we burn again. Jonah stopped humming. He looked small on the bed, fragile. His fingers folded in his lap, twitching in time with something we couldn't hear. Mara paced behind me, breathing hard. We need to go, she muttered. Now. We take the kid, we leave the state, burn the map, make noise, get out of reach. But I couldn't stop staring at the soot letters. We burn again. You think it's just a threat? No, she said. It's a promise. We packed fast. Jonah didn't resist. He walked with us to the truck, sat quietly in the back seat. But the moment we passed the mile marker out of Stillwater Bend, the air changed. The sky darkened, not night, not storm, just heavy. Mara squinted in the rear view. Do you feel that? I nodded. It's following. I looked back at Jonah. He was watching the horizon, mouth closed, eyes glowing faintly. And when I reached for him, I pulled back Ash. We made it 30 miles before the first fire bloomed. A barn lit up in a field. No lightning, no power line, no spark. Just spontaneous ignition. Mara cursed, slammed the wheel. More fires bloomed ahead, trees, a signpost, a drainage ditch. Anything dry enough to remember heat. It was using me, using him, both. We pulled off the road near a quarry. Old rock pit, disused. Mara grabbed Jonah by the shoulders, eyes wild. You need to listen to me, Jonah. You can stop this. He just blinked. The fire isn't yours, she said. It's a lie. It feeds on belief. It wears you until you think you're chosen, and then it burns you down and starts again. Jonah turned to me. His voice was quiet. I don't want to carry it anymore. And then the fires stopped. We stood in silence. No wind. No birds, just quiet. Then Mara pointed. At the edge of the quarry something glowed, not fire, not smoke. A figure, tall, thin, charred robes trailing the dirt. Its face was ash. Blank, but familiar. It was me, the version I'd left behind. The air I'd dennied. It stepped forward, not walking, drifting. Mara raised her gun. I stepped between them. I know what it wants. She shook her head. Don't do it. It wants a shape. I can give it mine. Just long enough for him to leave. Jonah's small hand gripped mine. Will it hurt? I smiled, tears in my eyes. It already did. I stepped forward. The fire being reached out, palm to palm, and for a moment we were one. I saw everything, every air, every burning, every moment of surrender that led to this. And I understood. The fire never wanted power. It wanted witness. It wanted to be remembered. So I let it see me, my memories, my grief, my love for a sister I couldn't save, my friendship with Mara, my choice, my name, and then I let go. The light vanished. The wind returned. I stood in the quarry alone, no flame, no smoke. Jonah sat in the dust, blinking like he'd woken from a long sleep. Mara ran to me, gripped my shoulders. You're still here, she breathed. You didn't burn. I looked at my hands, clean, whole, but not empty. Inside me, a single ember glowed, silent, at peace. We drove Jonah to a safe house Mara knew 2 states away. He sleeps through the night now. No more circles, no more humming. Sometimes he draws trees instead, unburned, alive. And as for me, I still dream, not of fire, but of ash. It speaks less now. But sometimes when the dusk settles just right, I hear my name, not screamed, not demanded, just spoken, remembered, and I whisper back, I see you. But you don't carry me anymore. I carry you. You made it back for now. But the things in the dark never truly leave, do they? They watch, they wait, and perhaps they remember you now too. If you want to hear more, if you dare to listen again, step back into the shadows. Like the video. Subscribe, but know this, some doors once opened do not close so easily.